Greeting to all the viewers and listeners around the world. Welcome to yet another exciting episode of Airworthy Talks by Udaan Aviation Academy. Today we have with us a very special guest from the world of Aviation FTO. He has worked across multifunctional role within the aviation industry, right from revenue to operations and profit center to man management across large multinational organizations serving across Middle East and Indian continent. He is none other than Mr. Hemanth DP, CEO, Asia Pacific Flight Training Academy. Hello, Hemanth sir. Welcome to our show. Good evening.
Thank you.
Right. So Hemant sir, I just wanted to sort of start by asking you, what are some of the crucial milestones from your decades-long career that had shaped you to become a successful aviation professional today?
I'll, most important is that you need to like what you're doing,
Uh-huh.
and they say if you like what you're doing, then it's no longer a job. Okay, and easier said than done though, because you might not always get what you want or what you like. I've been fortunate. I started off, my background is pretty humble to start with. I'm a village boy, grew up in a very small village near Mangalore, uh, 40 kilometers outside Mangalore. I studied in a government school there. My grandparents were teachers, very small village. Like I said, till fifth standard, we didn't even have electricity in our house. So from there, the nearest airport was Mangalore, and I remember once a plane flew over our village, which was very rare. Must have been at whatever 10, 20,000 feet, and the entire class, including the teachers, ran out to see that aeroplane. So that was our first encounter with aviation, so to speak. And then obviously it picked an interest, and every kid, I guess, wants to see, to fly or sit in the aeroplane. At that time, it was unthinkable. I mean, just a bus ride to Mangalore was a big deal for us. So sitting in an airplane was beyond reach, or beyond even thought reach. But from there onwards, and I worked my way up. My father was in defense, so he was posted in Delhi. Then I did my part of education here. Then I started off working in aviation specifically. Started working in a company called Blue Dart as a courier, and then I got to go to the airport and see the aeroplane, so that further piqued the interest. And then I went on to a company called TNT, which is a Dutch multinational, where I was handling airport operations. Then I went as a country manager for UAE for TNT, where again I worked with their planes, loading and all those stuff. We were doing load planning and the commercial aspect of it. Then, of course, I moved on to FedEx, which is one of the world's largest airlines. Logistic, about 750 airplanes, 700 plus airplanes they have, all type of it. So obviously, one is much closely associated when you're working in airline. Then Deccan, where I had the opportunity to lease the aircraft and start a hub and spoke model in India with freighters, wide body as well as small. First Air Deccan, that was during the merger time. That after the merger with Kingfisher, then Deccan opened a cargo airline. Then, of course, then I moved on to GMR Airports as a COO. There, I was hands-on handling, the airport side of the operation,
Wow.
passenger, cargo, fuel form, flight catering, all those things again. So this grew, and there, Asia Pacific was a wholly owned subsidiary of GMR Airports. So I was given the responsibility of that to head it. And once this was then I was like hands on with the aeroplane now, inside the aeroplane, so on and so forth. So 2019, that was hived into an independent company, and I took over as the CEO. So that's my journey in brief.
Wow. Right from humble beginnings. And I think that still the joy of seeing aircraft, I am sure that it's still there, right from your classroom days till now.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you are still fascinated with whenever you see the aircraft. So I think that's quite a story, sir, and you know it's quite a journey. And to all our listeners out here, I think the journey has not been easy for sir, right from humble backgrounds to making it to the CEO level. That's how the journey of industry is. We have got a lot of young listeners with us, sir, and everyone is like flabbergasted with the glamour of aviation industry. Okay, whether it is the pilots or the cabin crews. You are someone who has worn diverse hats over the years, have taken multiple positions. So, according to you, sir, what are some of the top soft skills and hard skills that aviation professionals should have in them before they are sort of looking to join the industry?
Well, soft skills most important, not just for aviation, for
Mhm,
any business or any industry, but especially aviation, is your communication skills. Because the industry primarily is there to cater to the public at large when it comes to an airline or a private jet, to corporates or industrialists or individuals, and then pilot training to students. So your
right.
communication skill is most critical.
Mhm,
Contrary to popular belief, there is this thing that you need to be glamorous, you need to be good looking, you need to be fair, you need to be tall, you need to be slim. All that is garbage. Okay, all those advertisements that especially they put out there in the past. Thankfully now it's decreased a bit about how a girl wore a particular cream and then she got a job. That is absolute garbage. When we
mhm,
look at hiring people, whether it's airport, customer facing, airlines, or for that matter, pilots, it is your aptitude, most important, like I said, communication skills, and then your attitude, which is you have to have a positive, smiling disposition, which means you
mhm,
cannot be sitting there with a scowl on your face in a counter, on the phone, or when interacting with the customers, be it passengers, cargo, pilots, whatever.
mhm,
So if you have those two, then, like we used to say in my previous company, any job requires basic literacy skills, which is what I talked about. One is communication, both
mhm,
writing and reading and comprehending, because there are all manuals and all to study. So you should understand numeracy skills, basic mathematics, division, multiplication, subtraction, yeah, etc., and averages and stuff. Okay, I am not talking qualifications here, as you would
mhm.
notice. I'm talking
Right.
about capability. Doesn't matter you're a BA, doesn't matter you're whatever, school pass, whatever, as long as you master these skills. I
Mhm,
mean, we have stories in FedEx where people have joined as courier and gone on to become the CEO of a $82 billion company with 700 aeroplanes. They learned on the way. You can do your studies on the way, no problem. Okay.
mhm,
If you have a degree in aviation, very good. But if you don't, that doesn't preclude you from joining aviation. Technical, if you want to get into an engineering line, obviously you need to have technical qualifications such as an aircraft maintenance engineering degree or any other
mhm,
related degrees. And of course, to become a pilot, it's fairly simple. All you need to do is pass 12 standard. In India, you need to have physics and mathematics as subjects, though it's not a ICAO requirement, but Indian rules still dictate that. However, if you did not take physics and maths in 11th and 12th, nothing to worry. Even arts graduate or whoever can join. First of all, to become a private pilot license, you just need 10 standards. So there is, you can start flying. And as a private pilot, you can fly 1,000 hours, you can fly a Airbus 380 or a Jumbo as long as you get your type certificate.
right.
But if you want to become a commercial pilot and you did not have physics and maths, you can always appear for these exams through National Open School,
Mhm,
which is an external exam just for physics, maths, 12 standard. Take some tuitions in case you've been out of touch with the subjects, and you just need to pass the exams. That's enough. You're fit to be a pilot. Okay, rest of it we will teach any. So
right.
I want to demystify it. A lot of people are rather worried. Oh, pilot, oh, engineer, oh, aviation. I need to do this, that, and the other. I mean, there are a lot of courses out there advertising saying that we will enable you to become this, that, and the other by doing this course. Not really, not necessary. Sure, for pilot license, you need to have a pilot training course. For engineers, you need to do your engineering degree. It's all given in the DGCA website what's required. Beyond that, there
Mhm,
is no course prescribed for an airport professional, for a ground handling, cargo. You can do that, but that's not a pre-criteria other than
right.
pilots and engineers.
Mhm, right. And thank you so much, sir. You have actually laid down the basics of what is required. with the hype of glamorous courses around aviation industry, I think having that basic sense of having the right communication skills, having the right aptitude, I think these are what the basic ingredients are. And thanks for highlighting those, sir. Now, uh, there has always been a constant tension in the industry about the job scenario. Okay. And the pandemic has been no different. It has actually sort of created or have escalated more the tension around job security. So, what is your viewpoint now when it comes to the aviation job scenario? Has it liberated more? Is it still preferring the ones who were laid off before the pandemic, or how the situation is now, the job markets?
Let me touch on the pilots part, which is the most
Mhm.
uh, talked about and um, uh, 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 which is has had a lot of newspaper coverage about pilots being laid off, etc. Very simple. 2019, before pandemic, in the airport, I told you my previous assignment was as the executive vice president and CEO, CCO of GMR airports at Hyderabad. We have had 5 years of consecutive growth, a compounded annual growth of 10% year over year.
Wow.
That's more than doubling the business, 5 years, and it's the highest recorded anywhere in the world.
Mhm.
With pandemic onset, obviously, we went from that fantastic growth to zero, absolute zero. It's not happened anywhere ever in history that the entire fleet is grounded the very next day, zero. Okay,
Mhm.
even 9/11, America grounded planes for a couple of days, but rest of the world was still okay. Connectivities got disrupted, but this was absolute blanket stopping for nearly 3 months.
Mhm.
Any catastrophic event like that obviously is bound to create a turmoil in any industry.
Right.
I think
Right.
other than the medicine industry, everybody was in turmoil. So naturally, a lot of airlines, because the fixed cost of an aviation company is very high. Okay,
Mhm.
most of it is, aeroplanes, manpower, airport leasing, etc., etc. Now, some of these you cannot
Mhm.
stop. You still have to pay for the aeroplane, for the buildings, etc. So they curtailed or laid off some force manpower, which was simply not required because it was not known whether this pandemic will last for 3 months, 2 months, God forbid, 6 months, 1 year. Nobody knew.
Mhm. Right.
Okay, ultimately, in some form or the other, it's lasted for over 2.5 years. Nobody could have envisaged such a thing. So when you ground the planes 100%, so you obviously there were job losses, not just in pilots, everything, support, engineer, ground staff, airport, everywhere. Okay.
Mhm.
And I must point out, though we were also completely grounded, we did not lay off a single person, nor did we delay the salaries. We paid on time every month on the first. But not many people were lucky like that way. A lot of salary cuts were there,
Mhm.
30-35%, salaries delayed, and some of them completely let go. Now, as the started recovering towards end of 20,
Mhm.
we almost were touching 80%, and we became rather, I would say, some amount of hubris set in, saying that, oh, okay, we have conquered it, we are now on top. And then the second wave hit us in
Right.
21. That knocked the wind out of us even worse than the first wave. First wave was the lockdown. Second wave was very deadly. As you know, a lot of people
Mhm.
died. We lost friends, we lost relatives, we lost some staff members, close relatives. By God's grace, we didn't lose any staff member, but a lot of them was seriously ill, hospitalized, etc.
Mhm.
Again, we went into a back foot. Again, the flying stopped because who would fly when there's such a deadly virus around?
Mhm.
So somewhere end of 21, the second recovery started, and there was a talk of a third wave. So little worry. So actual recovery properly started only in 22, beginning middle like that. So naturally, now we are up to almost 100% of domestic, and international is fairly close in the higher 70th, 80th percentile, and more or less should be back online very soon. And if you look
Mhm.
at ticket fares, both international and domestic, tells you
Mhm.
the demand is very, very high. The tickets have gone through the roof, which is always a good sign from an industry perspective, which means there is place for more players, more planes, more flights, and there are more passengers traveling, and there are more people using the airplanes. Same with cargo. So the first priority of any company would be to rehire those people who are already on your roads. That process is almost complete. Okay.
Okay.
Now, in case of pilots, when you rehire somebody, it's not like any other job, like a finance or accounting job. You bring back and more or less you brush off the little rust a bit, and then you get back to the work. Here you need to go through recertification. If you lost recency, if you lost currency on a particular airplane, etc., you need to do those recencies again, those familiarization tests, etc. So it takes a bit of time. So that process is almost done. Now they have started hiring the ones who had letter of intent or offer letters in late 19s or early 20s. They are all being absorbed, and the fresher ones which passed out in 2021 now are being considered, and it's only a matter of time.
Right.
The last part about this is that please understand the hiring is directly proportional to the number of airplanes you have in the country. Okay, unlike any other business, you don't hire a person and then say, okay, let's see what we can do. Each commercial airplane average requires 8 to 10 sets of pilots depending on your schedule. Let's say you operate from 0600 hours in the morning to, let's say, 11 o'clock midnight. You require anywhere between 6 to 10 sets of pilots. That's 12 to 20 pilots. Okay, to keep the plane flying 7 days a week, 365 days a year, with the weekly offs for the crew, the national holidays, Deepavali, 15th August, so on and so forth. Then there's sick leave, casual leave, privilege leave, all put together. You need about that many. So India had about 600 odd commercial airplanes before pandemic, 650 approximately. We are already at 700. The confirmed reports of large agencies like CAPA, etc., says that India has a confirmed order booking of close to 900 aeroplanes over the next 5 to 7 years, and another narrow body airplanes, and another 100 on in the wide body. That's about 1,000 planes, which is what the ministry and most aviation experts say, because we are woefully underserved as an aviation. Okay, we were about 6th, 7th largest in the country. We are expected to be 3rd largest in the world. In the world, within 24, 25, even pre-pandemic, IATA predicted that. Number 2 was China. China has close to 7,000 aeroplanes, and we have 700. That's not a true potential. We're not 10 times smaller than China, neither as an economy, nor as the size of the country, and definitely not as a population or per capita income. So we are underserved for various reasons. Aviation was a very regulated industry. Not many people came in. Some of the companies didn't do well because of internal reasons, nothing to do with the market. In the same market, companies like Indigos have done very well. That tells you it's not the market, it's reasons outside of the market. So if we have another 1,000 aeroplanes, we are still at about 1,800 aeroplanes, which is again less than 1/3 of China.
Right.
Okay, and US has over 10,000 aeroplanes. Their population is 300 million. We are 1.3 billion. So they say in the 90s, in one colony, you had one telephone. I remember going to some uncle for PP phones or going to do STD in the night. We were somewhere beyond 150 in tele-density in the world out of 200 countries. In 2000s, less than 10 years' time, we are the number 2 tele-density in the world after China. Every man and his brother and his neighbor and his dog has a telephone. So, cars, automobiles. When I was growing up, if you had a car, you were a big shot. You see the old movies, 70s, 80s. Nariman Point has 1 or 2 cars driving, and the hero and the heroine is dancing in the middle of the road. Try and do that today, you'll be run over in 2 seconds. Okay. Same thing in TV, fridge, etc. When we were kids, when I came to Delhi, I remember going to a neighbor to watch a cricket match or a movie, In the entire colony, there would be two or three televisions, black and white, and we would stand outside the window and watch some important match or some World Cup football, or some of the households would even put mats outside and bring the TV to the balcony so that more people can see, because TV was not affordable. Today, not only every household, every room has a TV, every individual has his own TV. Even shanty towns have TV and fridges.
Right.
This has been growth of India over the last 20, 30 years. You're telling me with that type of a growth, guess how many Indians should be flying? I would say at least half, if not more. Less than 10% Indians fly, just about 7 or 8%. So a person who can afford a car, a TV, a fridge, a mobile phone, a decent house, again, housing. Most Indians used to live in a rented house or a government quarters. Now people are, you're having multiplexes all over, condominiums all over. So people can afford all this, but they can't afford a 5,000 rupee ticket. That's not right. So they say the next revolution after the vehicle revolution, the white goods revolution, the telecom revolution, IT. Oh, I forgot. I mean, computer. My goodness. People will say we are computerized company. Okay. Now, does anybody say that today? Okay, everybody. Now your mobile phone has more computing power than the first laptop I got in FedEx, which had, I was told this is a very high power computer, 2.5 GB hard disk. I said, whoa. 2.5, I think people send videos of 2.5 GB these days. Okay.
Absolutely.
So after all that revolutions, vehicle, automobile, white goods, telecom, housing, IT revolution, aviation is the next revolution, which is at an inflection point. And we'll go from this elitist, which is no longer elitist, but still 7% is very low, to, if you go from 7 to 10%, it's a 50% growth nearly. That's the potential of aviation. And we not just 2,000, we need to have at least 5 to 10,000 aeroplanes in this country to connect the length and breadth. We are the 7th largest country in the world, 3.3 million square kilometers. And the road and rail takes, even today, to go from Delhi to Bangalore or to Mangalore, my hometown, takes you 3 days on train. I would spend 3 days in train rather than reaching there in 2.5 hours. And whereas a second AC or a first AC will cost you same 5,000-6,000 rupees, and the same amount if you book in advance in the plane you can reach. So potential is not a problem. We are going to have a severe shortage, unlike IT, unlike whatever, where you can relatively train faster, not fast, but relatively. And the infrastructure required is a building, computer, etc. Here you need an airport, an aeroplane, a pilot, an engineer, a trainer, etc. So there is going to be a very high demand. So there's absolutely nothing to worry about the job prospects. There's about pilot. Of course, like I said, you need 6 to 8 sets of pilots. You need 6 to 8 sets of cabin crew too. And that is multiplied by 4. That's about, 30 people per aeroplane. And then you multiply it by the 1,000 aeroplanes. How much is that? It's 30, 40, 50, 60,000 people, well-trained people. And there's a full pyramid. There's the pilot, there's the cabin crew, then there's the engineers, then there's ground handlers, then there's the fuelers, then there's the flight catering, then there is the airport, then there is the, airport operations center, so on and so on and so forth, parts manufacturers, the works. So
right. So I think you have absolutely sort of broken this down, question of mine to shortages, to the economy and the greater context of how life has been in India to what it is now. And I cannot agree more to you that if people today could afford smartphones and luxury, living, then obviously a flight ticket is not going to be that expensive. So that justifies the demand, right? I also have this question in my mind, and a lot of our viewers have also asked me in person, that pilot training is super expensive. Okay. And it goes into crores of rupees, it goes into lakhs of rupees. And sometimes children are fed with wrong information. There is this lack of proper guidance by the general markets out there. So how do you feel that this challenge could be overcome, this lack of having the right guidance or having the right mentors in the market? And how is Asia Pacific catering to these things?
Probably the most relevant questions
Mhm.
among what you asked today. All are relevant, but there's even more relevant. Okay,
Right.
I'm glad you did ask. First and foremost, uh, expensive is a relative term.
Mhm.
We have in this country again. How many people go for MBBS? Lakhs and crores, and
Mhm.
rightly so, because a country this size, even today, our doctor to patient ratio is one of the largest in the world. We
Mhm.
need much more, especially in smaller towns, especially in government hospitals, etc. Even, I mean, we saw that during the pandemic,
Mhm.
how woefully short we were of medical personnel. And I'm talking doctors, same goes for nurses and all that stuff. Okay.
Right. Mhm.
A medical degree, after you pass 12th, you have to go through a very tough competitive exam to get through to any colleges. Then I think it's 4 years minimum MBBS and then internship, and then you have MS or MD, which is another couple of years. Then again internship, and then you go for super specialization. And
Mhm.
my sister-in-law did that, and I was telling my wife, I said, "Dear, I have seen your sister only studying for the last 10 years. When is she ever going to do anything else? She's a retina surgeon, a super specialist, and she and my brother-in-law." And when me and my wife were dating, she was studying, and when we had children, she was still studying. Okay, so, because that's required, to reach
Right.
that level of specialization is required, and the cost there is in crores.
Mhm.
Definitely a lot of lakhs, if not crores. There are some colleges, obviously government colleges, etc., which are subsidized, but there are very few. For
Mhm.
the size of a population, not everybody can afford to go there. So you spend that much money over a 10-year period, nearly a decade, you know, before you're qualified to go in front of a patient and do justice. Okay. And there again, your salary will start modestly, maybe, 50, 60, 1 lakh. I'm not sure what a doctor earns, a junior doctor. And then they start, picking up and going upwards from there.
Mhm.
Government scale could be different, private could be different, your own practice could be different, but it's somewhere there. Nobody goes and says, "Oh, doctor's degree is so expensive that I can't afford it. I won't go." Every child you ask, "What do you want to be?" "I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer."
Engineer.
Even an engineering degree from any decent college is not cheap.
Yeah.
And again, you have to go through, various exams. Okay, IIT, etc., government run. But if you want to go into any private business, same thing with management colleges. You want to go into ISB, you want to go into, any other college of repute, you will end up spending 10, 20 lakhs, whatever. And then there are people going abroad for studies. You
Mhm.
know, graduation, undergraduation, again will cost you 20, 30, 40 lakhs over 3 to 4 years, plus living expenses. Then post graduation equally high. Again, depends on which country, wherever you go. If you compare to these four verticals I discussed about, doctors, engineers, management schools, and international education,
Yeah.
pilot training is cheaper than all of them, I can tell you that much. And it takes only 18 months at most, maybe even less. And let me also tell you one more thing. If you get a foreign degree in, let's say, graduation, post graduation, or even if you go into a management degree, or
Mhm.
you're going to become an engineer, the salaries, nobody guarantee you a salary that I'll give you 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh. To start with, you will start a little lower and then work your way up. And then based on your capability, you will reach there. All good. Now,
Mhm.
pilot training in India, from any good institute, there are a lot of institutes. Some of them charge less, some of them are government run, but
Mhm.
there are limited seats there, and it takes a bit longer because of the infrastructure is limited there, and they will prefer their own state candidates, etc. But if you
Mhm.
go into a good private institute with decent, modern, advanced aeroplanes, and where you have very well trained instructors, which is most important.
Mhm.
Aeroplanes and instructors are most important. Without these two, doesn't matter how nice your building is, doesn't matter. Your training cost could be between, let's say, 30 to 40 lakhs rupees. Okay,
Mhm.
around 40, 45 would be the top 4 or 5 schools, and late 30s or mid 30s would be the second layer schools. So let's say 35 to 45 lakhs.
Mhm.
And then type training take another lakh, 10 lakhs, 12 lakhs, 15 lakhs. So let's say 50 to 60 lakh is the total amount
Mhm.
required to become a pilot and then get type trained. I'm talking airline only. If it's flight training, then it's a little less. when you get in as a first officer, and by the way, you start at 12. We have had girls, some girls starting at 16. Now, for next 2 years, she could not drive a car, but she drove a plane. Her father came, from a conservative family. She's saying that, ये फ्लाइंग करना चाहती है, हमारा घर में तो कोई भी लड़की गहन नहीं है, कैसे कहा? He said, no. India's got the highest ratio of women pilots in the world. You're at the right place. No, she's very short. I said, sir, this is a modern day plane. You can adjust your seats, you can adjust your pedal, you can do everything. There's no need to be 6 foot tall to be. These are all, again, fallacies,
Yeah.
Eyesight with specs. Yeah, sure. Corrected vision, you can fly, no problem. You need to pass your class 2, class 1 medical. Basics parameters are taken care. You can fly. So she was 16. Obviously, she's still growing. So she got a solo long before she was even allowed to touch a car. And she was flying a 5 crore single engine and a 10 crore multi-engine over a large metropolis like Hyderabad in clear abundance, when probably her sisters and her brothers of that age were not even allowed to probably drive a motorcycle. Okay. And now she's 18 and she's grown taller too, obviously. So I said, hey, I saw the other day, I said, hey, Mama, you've grown taller. Okay. And she's a pilot. So at the age of 18, you're a pilot. And let's say you get through an airline type training and all that stuff, 18, 19. I'm saying minimum. Of course, it could be later too. Pre-pandemic, as soon as you're released as a first officer, releasing means once you join, you go through some internal ground training and then supernumerary flights and so on and so forth, check pilots, and then you're released as a first officer. The salary could be anywhere between 1.5 to 2.5 lakhs. Tell me few professions that you can think of the top of your head, which pays an 18 or a 19-year-old starting salary of 20 to 30 lakh rupees per annum. Okay, not many I can think of. God knows I wasn't paid that when I was 18 or much later. Okay, right. So with that type of salary, if you spend 50, 60 lakh rupees at that age, 18, 19, 20, you're earning 20, 30 lakhs. If you take a loan, either from internal or bank or, through your father or mother or whatever, you can pay off the loan in 2 years' time, 3 years' time flat, because most of them don't have much commitment at that age. You're not married, you don't have kids, you don't have huge responsibilities. You're getting 20, 30 lakhs minus taxes and your expenses, 2-3 years, boom, you're paid for this thing. And if that's your starting salary, once you become an ATPL pilot, a captain or whatever, your salary will cross 3-4 lakhs, 5 lakhs, and then you can go on. This is your starting salary. And pilot profession is one of the few professions where you can fly till the age of 65, provided you keep your medical fit.
Right.
So you have 45 years of flying career ahead of you with a starting salary of anywhere between 20 to 30 lakhs. Where do you think it'll go in 65 years? Okay. So it makes me think that, damn, I wish I had done that. But, I couldn't afford it. I could only afford to see it at that time. But I am thankful. God's been kind. I mean, from that, now we have 4 aeroplanes. We bought 3 more. So, I'm thankful. But that is, I wanted to demystify this pilot thing. It is a lot cheaper than many other courses which most kids are doing today, whether it is doctors, engineers, or management courses, degrees. Or if you take a loan, like I said, 40, 50 lakh loan, most people, you put a house as a collateral or whatever, you can take a loan. And then there are loans available where there is a moratorium for 3 years. So you don't need to start paying the loan the day you take it. So you take a loan today through your father, obviously at that age, maybe parents or whoever, relatives who gives you a loan, or through a bank with a collateral. And you can ask them for a 3-year moratorium, saying that I will start paying the loan 3 years later, which means it allows you to finish your course and get a job and then start paying from your job. No problem. So that the pressure of paying the EMI doesn't come on you or your family when you're still training. So these are various ways. I mean, APFT has tied up with a bank who has this facility. These are ways that, you can, and it's not that, and I'll tell you that more than 90% of our cadets are all from middle class, background or thereabouts. There are very few whose dad is cut a single check and say, okay, go. Okay.
Right.
Most of them are from such backgrounds, and they're doing well. And we want such people to come into aviation. We don't want aviation to be an elitist. I wasn't one. I wouldn't want it to remain one. We want, as the government's stated objective, stated vision plan is उड़ेगा देश का आम नागरिक उड़ान UDAN.
Yeah.
Now, if आम नागरिक उड़ेगा तो आम नागरिक only has to pilot it as well.
Very true.
You can't have a rich guy flying आम नागरिक, right?
Right.
That's what is demystifying this part.
Right. And thank you so much, sir, for putting this light on that pilot training is not the expensive one out there in the market. That doctor's example that you gave, right till super specialization, not only you're putting in the money, but you're also putting in the time. Whereas the rate of return out here is much faster than that of other professions that are out there.
Yes.
So so fabulously put out there, sir. Now, since I have been into aviation for the last 6-7 years, and majority of it is into training, academics, and all of that. And I've seen a lot of my batchmates and others as well. Chalo abroad jaake pilot training. Okay. Let's go abroad. Let's go to New Zealand. Let's go to Canada. Let's go to America. We might end up getting a citizenship out there. I mean, lot of sort of flow out there in the market around such things. So, what is your take on this? Is it worthy enough to do it from abroad? How does that compare to doing your pilot training from India?
Second most important question. Okay.
Right.
See, as a free citizen of the country, everybody has a right to train where they want to train. So it's just like said, if somebody wants to go and study in Harvard or Oxford, nobody to say don't go. Please do, no problem. However, at this point in time, there is an extraordinary amount of people who used to go abroad, most because of lack of information, first, and second, some disinformation too. I want to rest. The most biggest lack of information, I would say, is that pilot training abroad is more sophisticated. It is more, quality is better. And let me address that first. Our pilot training institutes, we have had foreign training organizations, pilot training organization, foreign airlines, and domestic airlines like Indigo, like Vistara, like Asia, and many others who have come and inspected our facilities, talked to our inspectors, audited our facilities, and found us to be absolutely at par. And I'm talking about large foreign organizations up to $14-15 billion turnover in aerospace. Okay,
right.
These are marquee names. I'm not taking their names here because, confidentiality part. Some of them we train their pilots too. Okay, advanced PPL, and a lot of them for other courses. Very large organizations, and organizations which have been in aerospace and aviation for over 50 years. They came and did an audit and found that we're fantastic. Okay, so that's one aspect. I'm talking about us. Okay, what is the most important thing that you look at when you choose a flight training organization? When you choose a college, you look at the reputation, you look at placements, you look at, whatever, Google it, maybe talk to friends and families. Friends and family part doesn't help you much because there are not too many friends and family who are pilots will tell you or who have been in aviation. So you tend to Google, and there are a lot of videos by so-called experts wearing pips, ties, saying that I'm a pilot and talking absolute baloney. Some of them, I look at it and say, what is this person talking about? And unfortunately, there are a lot of youngsters who are following them, liking them, saying, thank you, sir, for the information. I said, listen, kid, that's not correct information. But, you can't, go and start refuting every single video out there. Now, go as per logic. When you go for flight training, what is the most important thing? The most important thing when you fly an aeroplane when you go to flight training? If I were to ask you,
Safety, I'll say.
100%.
Mhm.
Yes, the minute you leave the ground beyond 10, 20 feet, safety becomes
Safety.
very, very critical. So
Right.
when you go to a driving school, also first thing you see, ki boss, how safe are they? Accident to nahi hota. When you go on flying, 100%, you need to look at the safety record. You want to come back home every day for the rest of the training and be a successful pilot. Safety is number one, not disputed.
Mhm.
That can only be assessed by how many accidents or fatalities has your institute had.
Right. Mhm.
And that is a published figure. Nobody can hide it. You can go onto the DGCA website and check, or you can write to DGCA and say how many accidents had flight training industry or RTI or whatever. Okay, it's a public information because it's not to be hidden. It's like an airline. You know how many crashes has X airline has. It's documented. Nobody can deny it.
Right.
So you come to know. Second most important is what when you choose a flight training school, other than safety. What else are you looking at?
And say the quality of the instructors or
All that leads to what?
um, job aspect.
Exactly.
Ultimately.
Bang
Yeah.
on. Bang on. The first is safety. You don't want injury. You don't want, God forbid, anything. You want safely health and come back successfully after your training. After your training, what do you want? You want a job. If these two parameters are met by that flight school, it doesn't matter if it's on top of Mount Everest or it's in Timbuktu. Okay.
Right.
What we've done on a website, number one is that in 10 years, we have had zero accidents, by God's grace. Okay.
Wow.
The zero injuries or fatalities. That is the biggest achievement we had. Financial, all the other things are secondary. Number two, we have had over 97% placements. And I say 97 because
Wow.
2-3% personal choice. Some people have gone here, there, abroad, changed mind, or gone into another profession. 97%. If 97% pilots are hired by all the 9 airlines in the country over the last 10 years, there must be something that our trainees, the instructors, and our team is doing right. And this is endorsed by multiple airlines. If these two parameters are met, then comes how much time it takes. Doesn't matter. I told you 45 years of career you have. We fly out of a controlled airfield. We fly out of, Shamshabad Airport, Rajiv Gandhi International Airport, Hyderabad. We fly out of Begumpet Airport, Hyderabad. These two airports are 9 nautical miles apart, and between them, they have 800 arrivals and departures a day. Then within a 25-kilometer radius, we have Dindikul Air Force Base and Hakimpet Air Force Base. Put together, our entire flying environment is close to 800 to 1,000 air traffic movements a day at peak time. It's as good as doing flight training in Bombay Airport or Delhi Airport. Okay? If you fly in that environment, you cannot fly unless you're a proficient pilot. It's like putting a kid on Ring Road or on Nariman Point, or which city are you in, by the way?
Mumbai.
Mumbai. If I put a driver in Nariman Point and he or she doesn't know how to drive, he cannot survive. Okay.
Cannot survive. Yeah.
So if you fly in that, and if you train somebody in Nariman Point to how to learn how to drive, I'm telling you, he or she will be the best driver in the world. And that's exactly what we're doing. However, if you train in Nariman Point, it's going to take a little longer than if you train in a village road, somewhere back of beyond. Of course, you can drive, there is nobody on the road, but then you're not fit to fly in a congested environment. So it'll take I would say not fit to fly. It'll take you time because then you need to have experience. And it's not just a matter of situational awareness and how much airplanes are there. It is also the RT, the radio telephony. We fly out of a controlled airfield, which means it's controlled by airport authority through professional air traffic control officers at ATCOs, ATCOs. And they speak in a very, very defined ATC language, which is called, flight radio unique telephony operator's license you're supposed to get. And then you talk only like that. You can't say, please, sir, can I land first? No. That's not the way to say it. There is a particular way to say it. And these professional operators will not tolerate somebody who doesn't know how to talk. They will simply not let him or her fly. They'll say, please land back. You're not safe to fly. So if you do 200 hours, 18 to 12, 12 to 24 months in that environment, you are absolutely proficient. So these are the two criteria that you choose. And the third one, the quality of training, like I said, which leads to 100% placement. time taken. Some people will claim that I do it in 1 year, I do it in 6 months. There are people say I do it in 4 months, 6 months. I don't know about those. If you do your MBBS in 1 year, I'm not sure whether you'll be able to learn that fast or not. Everybody is a genius that who can absorb it. It takes certain time to absorb it. So 12 to 14, 18 months is a good enough time to learn. And that's what is a normally prescribed timeline for all over the world. What's the hurry? You're 18, 19. You have another 45 years to fly. So 45 become 44 and a half. Is that such a big deal? No. Learn properly. Now, then comes the money, of course. Money is directly proportional to the value you get. You have a safe flying institute, who gets you a job. And then, of course, the most important is the airplanes. Now, we fly Diamond DA-40 and 42 airplanes. These are one of the world's most advanced flight training aircraft. There are some more, but which are very expensive, parachute, etc. But among the other ones, this is the most advanced and the most expensive. This is also made of a carbon fiber composite material. You might have heard of Boeing 787, which is a Dreamliner. The entire body is made of, or Formula One cars. So they are light in weight. They are low-wing airplanes with jet fuel burning power plants. Most flight training aircraft use avgas, aviation gas, which are expensive and also difficult to get. Recently, IOCL has started producing in India. That will take a time for the supply, but otherwise there were supply shortages and price shooting up. Jet fuel is available in every airport because that's what is used by all the airlines. So, and us, we have Garmin 1000 glass cockpit, which is the latest, avionics suite. And then we have something called FedEx, which is fully authorized digital engine control system, which is a safety feature as well as an efficiency and productivity feature. These airplanes 10 years back were the first ones to be brought in the country. So the quality of the airplanes, the infrastructure, I told you, you're flying out of Shamshabad, Begumpet and Gulbarga, which is a new airport, which is also controlled, but with less. So we have a mixture that, initial training we'll do in Gulbarga because it's faster and less congestion. And as a graduate, we'll bring them to a more congested airfield so that they have a good mix. And the result is, I've had some very senior pilots of very large Indian airlines calling and saying, normally when we put a new first officer, our captains say that, workload is increased. These boys and girls are very young and they're very little nervous. And, my workload increases. I have to talk to ATC all the time. He says, and then there are these few boys and girls who come. He says, my pilots complain that they don't let me do the work. They say, I want to talk to ATC. I want to push back. I want to, enter the runway. I want to take off. I want to land. He says, where are these guys come from? So I said, sir, 200 hours they have trained in one of the most toughest environments. So for them, when I ask them, sometimes I see them when I'm flying between India, they see me from the cockpit and they come out and say, hey, sir, how are you? Such a pleasure to see one of his students flying you. I said, oh, okay, great. I'm safe today. I'm in your hands. And they say, I said, how's commercial flying? He says, sir, honestly, it's a bit boring because, most of it's automated. That's why I asked, I do the, ground, pre-flight, walkabout and all that stuff. You enter the runway, you climb to, 30,000 feet, put on autopilot, then I'm waiting for landing. Okay. Whereas out there, it was action packed throughout. So that is, the proof of the pudding is in eating it. When the senior captains, flight ops chiefs call and say that, your guys are doing so well and our captains appreciate. That is moksha for us.
Perfect. And we have sort of demystified a lot of things.
So one point on your foreign part, that being the case, to say that a foreign institute is better, I do not agree. Of course, there is a pyramid. There are a lot of flight schools which might not be of this caliber and they might use some not so safe methods. And you might have read in the media or in this thing that there are some fake trainings going on, overlogging typically, which means you fly 10 hours and you log 12, 13, 14, whatever hours. Or the popular terminology, like, there was this movie where, Keanu Reeves or Christian Slater, I think, said that they lost a nuclear weapon and they call it broken arrow. So his officer said, I don't know what is more alarming, the fact that we lose a nuclear weapon or we lose it so often that we have a nickname for it. Okay. So here there is a terminology called DOLO, which basically in every flight pilot's career, solo is the most critical phase. First time, like I said, that
Yeah.
16-year-old girl, she
Mm.
came when she trained. So anywhere from, let's say, approximately 15, 20, 25 hours, you get a solo, which means your first time taking an airplane on your own and flying, taking off, talking to ATC and
Mhm.
your neighboring airplanes, come and land safely. That is the ultimate. That's when the rubber meets the road. That unfortunately, some of the schools apparently do not have confidence in the pilots, and they put one more pilot
Mhm.
incognito without recording it on the manifest.
Mm.
And they put an instructor, or in some cases worse, another cadet training pilot or a pilot,
Mhm.
so that there is that so-called cadet solo pilot. In
Mhm.
case he or she messes up, they can take over. Well, in case they messes up, they're not fit for solo. They shouldn't be doing solo.
Exactly.
Thing has become so prevalent, they call it dolo because there are two people. Okay. So that's why I said what's more alarming is the fact that it happens, or it happens so often that there is a nickname for it. So there are those ones. Avoid
Mhm.
those. Talk
Right.
around, you will come to know who logging, who does dolo. And these are unfortunately those places, some places, where the safety is compromised. Yes. But that's like saying all colleges in India are bad. There are some colleges where we heard cases of cheating or whatever. But
Mhm.
hey, we got some of the best colleges, whether it is medical, engineering, management. In every field, we have some of the best colleges in the world in this country. There may be some bad eggs. Same as the case of flight training. There may be some bad eggs here and there, but a majority of the schools, or at least the good ones, do not
Mhm.
do is as good as abroad. And when you do training abroad, when you come back, you have to do a conversion training to get a
Mhm.
DGC abroad Indian license, which means again you have to pass theory exams as well as fly. So
Right.
that's added cost. And these days, getting a visa, like US, I believe there's a 3-year waiting list.
Uh-huh.
Most countries do have, and pandemic, all that. Plus, you have to pay foreign exchange. The dollar's appreciating. That you'll have to pay a lot more.
Mhm.
And this is a fallacy saying that if you go and get a pilot license in some other country, you'll get citizenship. No, they prefer their own pilots first. In very extreme cases, you might. No
Mhm.
way that just because you got a pilot license, you will get a job there. No, you have. And by the way, it's India which has the jobs. We have
Yeah.
expats, pilots flying here. We pre-pandemic again, we have hundreds of expats flying here. Why are we flying expats if we have enough Indians qualified? And they are coming here. Why would you go to their country? Obviously, there's lack of jobs. That's why they're coming here. So you have to come here to fly anyway. So these are the reasons why I would say India. Yeah, but somebody wants to get an experience, you go. Yeah,
Mhm.
fine, but absolutely not required.
Right. And I think sort of this discussion has surely rested this argument of India versus abroad. I think you have put a lot of critical points out here. Yes, there are certain bad acts, but that doesn't mean that the entire basket is going to be, a waste out there, right? So I think that's rightly put. I just want you to wear your CEO hat once again, and I have got this critical question of, yes, you mentioned that the Indian aviation industry is going to grow, and that's how the numbers are projecting. More aircrafts are going to come in. How are you aligning Asia Pacific FTO's growth to the Indian growth? What are your plans going forward as an FTO?
Uh, Good question. Last 2 years have been
Mhm.
terrible for us. Like I said, terrible for all of us. I mean, the whole world. Every business has suffered, and we're no different.
Mhm.
However, we did not just sit and wait. I can't recollect who said this, but one very well-known CEO said during the last recession. I remember my boss quoting in 2008-9, saying that one way is to you can't shrink your way to success. Okay,
Mhm.
because there is drop of business, and you say I cut manpower, I cut salary, I cut investment, cut training, cut travel, cut marketing. Hmm, you will ultimately vanish. He says the aggressive way to get out of a recession is spend your way out of recession. Of course, it's easy to say, or expand your way out of recession. So what we did in the last 2 years is, and which links with what you said, that how are we getting ready? the best time to invest and expand is, when? Is in a recession.
Recession. Yeah.
That's when you have capital available, you have manpower available, you have equipment available. So what we did was, between 2020 and 21, we went and got a third airport. Okay, now we have three airports, three controlled airfields. I don't think there are many flight schools or any who have three, and that to such major airfields to do flight training in. We got Gulbarga Airport, Kalaburgi. It is 11,000 feet runway, very long. Okay, you can land almost any plane there if you want. And it's just got about 3 or 4 flights a day, commercial planes, small aircraft, Embraers and ATRs. So rest of the airfield is free. So we built a hangar. We got a 55,000 square feet land space inside that. From Airport Authority of India, we signed an agreement for 25 years. Okay. We built a full-fledged hangar there for all our aeroplanes. We built a full office infrastructure, classrooms, maintenance, continuing airworthiness management office, a flight instructor's office, ATC, the works. Our own apron. So far, we used to park in others' apron.
Right.
So we did that. Then we also went and purchased 3 more aeroplanes. We are now in the process of getting some more. So we are nearly doubling our fleet, and we intend to keep on doing that over the next 4 years. We have very clear chalked out plans to do this, and we're going to add some more airports. We're at advanced stages of discussion. So, and of course, we are also increasing the manpower. So we have increased in certain areas. We are currently looking out for about 5 flight instructors, okay, from all ranges, Western flight instructor to senior flight instructors and ground instructors, and also engineers, especially with AMEs with B1.2 or any other modules passed for aircraft maintenance engineers, and some other staffing in administrative functions as well. So that's where we are.
Right. So quite in line with the growth of Indian aviation. That is what I could say. Last but not the least, sir, the one standout element of your FTO has been your immaculate safety record, and I think not you, but I also feel a sense of pride in that okay, yes, there is an aviation FTO in India that has got a very spick and span safety record. So if our listeners want to reach out to you, what are the ways through which someone could connect with you directly, or let's say with your FTO?
Okay. First of all, we have a website called apft.edu.in. That is Asia Pacific Flight Training, apft.edu, Eco Delta Uniform India November. Then we have an email, which is admissions@apft.edu.in and registrar@apft.edu.in. These 2 emails, as well as the website has the phone number as well. Okay, the phone number, if you want. Do you want me to cite the phone number, or
we could flash it out as well? That's absolutely.
Okay. I can tell you we have an admissions phone number, and the phone number is 98105 74984.
9810578.
98105 74984.
74. Perfect. Yes. Okay.
And this is available on WhatsApp as well as on calls. And you could write to us on admissions@apft.edu.in or registrar@apft.edu.in. We respond instantaneously within a day. And we have some very good young folks working on it. Rakesh, who put us in touch, he's managing business development marketing. He's a new induction, and we have a young lady called Laksha, and headed by Chief Ground Instructor Soumya. They are the people who deal with student related issues, queries, and admissions, and so on and so forth.
Right. Perfect. Thank you so much, sir, for that wonderful insight into the world of FTOs and how markets are. Moving on to the most entertaining section of our podcast, which is
So just one point on this, and
yeah.
if some folks want to visit the facility to see it for themselves, that also is possible. Get in touch with the this thing. We have to arrange a pass, etc., to enter the airport. If you
Mhm.
want Gulbarga to visit our facility, or of course our admin office in Rajiv Gandhi International Airport,
Mhm.
Shamshabad, Hyderabad, and GMR Aero Towers. You can walk in any time there, or better that you call and fix an appointment. So we'll make sure people are there. Sorry, carry on.
Right, right. No, no, perfect, perfect. I think that was quite important. Nothing could beat the physical visit of the FTO, right? So that's quite important. Moving on to one of the most entertaining segments of our podcasts, it's called as the rapid fire round.
Ah,
Um, I am going to ask you a couple of short, crisp questions, and I would like your viewpoints on that. So, my first question to you is, what is your favorite aircraft that you want to be trained upon as a pilot?
Diamond,
Diamond.
without an ounce of doubt.
Right, perfect.
Diamond Aero.
Once you have trained upon, let's say, on a Diamond, what is your favorite aircraft that you want to be type rated?
Well, I am a romantic, and most people in my era, we were fascinated with Boeing 747, the jumbo jet. Unfortunately, she's being retired now. Though 747-8, which is
Yeah.
a code F category airport, 747-400 was up to code E category.
Mhm.
Dash 8 is still flying. Lufthansa flies for passengers and Cathay flies for cargo and so on and so forth. But otherwise, the conventional
Mhm.
747 is being retired. But she is called as the queen of the sky. She's a beauty. Especially a landing flare as well as the takeoff is they say poetry in motion. So definitely, I'm a romantic, so I'd like to fly that.
There you go. Right. Now, moving on, what is the biggest lie that you have heard about pilot training?
Biggest lie.
Hmm. Yeah.
That pilot jobs are difficult to get, and pilots have no future. They cannot be a bigger lie than that.
Very well stated. Now, over the decades, you have worked as a corporate professional. Now you are sort of on an entrepreneurial journey. Uh, if there is a choice you want to make, corporate versus entrepreneurship, what is that you will be end up choosing?
Without a doubt, entrepreneurial, because you can do what you want, and there is no bigger contribution that you
Mhm.
can do towards big words like nation building, or your contribution is to create another job. So when you hire a housekeeper or a driver at home, you're doing that. But as an entrepreneur, you have, instead of expecting the government or somebody else to create a job for you, you
Mhm.
created your own job and now you're creating for others. So that is the most satisfactory and fulfilling experience. On the other hand, of course, it's a lot of responsibility, because
Mhm.
today, when you're working, you're responsible for your family. When you become an entrepreneur, you suddenly become responsible for 50, 60, 100 families. And that
Right.
is a three. In aviation, they say one aviation job creates 6.5 additional jobs. So if
Mhm.
you hire 50 people, you're suddenly responsible for over 300, 400 families. So that's
Right.
the responsibility quotient. And of course, you can do what you want to do or what you dreamt of doing. So,
Mhm.
but a corporate professional experience is worth its weight in gold. I
Mhm.
don't think I could have been able to do a lot of things that I'm doing today if it wasn't for the kind guidance and mentoring given by my past bosses, my managers, my gurus, my colleagues, and some of the stellar standards and
Mhm.
of ethics and integrity that I learned in companies right from beginning, from Blue Dart to FedEx to GMR and so on and so forth. So uh, that's also important. So you get some experience and you start on an entrepreneurial journey. That's the best combination.
Perfect. Brilliant. What is that one thing you would like to see changing in the flight training space?
Those bad eggs, I want them to be out, because they bring bad name to the entire industry.
Mhm.
And this is one of the few in the world where a bad college or a bad school can flunk kids. can probably make it difficult for them to get a job. But a bad flight training organization kills people. Okay. I want them to vanish overnight if I had a magic wand out, because you're doing damage to the reputation of the country and the industry.
Right, very true. And last but not the least, if you were not into aviation, then what you had been doing?
Very interesting. I don't know. I wanted to be a singer, an actor, a lawyer at one time, even a journalist at one time. But since it's a hypothetical question and a fantasy one, I wanted to be a Formula One driver and a
Oh,
footballer.
oh, there you go. Right from the fantasy world. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. That brings us to an end of our today's podcast. It was a pleasure having you, sir, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. It was a pleasure talking to you, and thanks for asking very relevant question, which hopefully the youngsters can look at it and, like I said, demystify and not only get the right information. Most important thing is to get the right information.
Right. Very true. Very true. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks all. Thanks to all your team
Yes.
members, Rakesh too.